Welcome to Entrepreneurs Sardinas, and today we have Brenda, which is the CEO, the founder of Critical Impact. So Brenda, tell us, what are the 5 steps to deal with difficult employees?
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Are Leaders podcast with Harry Sardinas. Interviews with world's most influential entrepreneurs that share tips about how to grow your business exponentially. Charismatic speaking, leadership, branding, marketing strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.
Oh, difficult employees. Well, first off, thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate it. Honestly, the very first step that you can take that's going to help deal with a difficult employee is to listen more and talk less. And there's a reason for that. Not only are you going to wind up getting the right kind of information that you need, believe it or not, it actually puts you in a power situation. So the more calm and composed you are, the more you are listening without trying to activate, trying to argue, trying to win the argument or win the conversation, it actually puts you in a power position because you're getting all sorts of information. You're going to learn what they're saying, you're going to learn how they're dealing with things, and you are going to learn very quickly how they handle specific things. And then the second thing that is absolutely critical is that you're going to want to ask some questions, right? So you want to ask good questions because you're going to get good answers, which also puts you in a power situation as well. It will allow you to fill some of the gaps in the information that you're dealing with. It'll allow you to get clarity. All of this helps to build confidence as well. And then the next step after that is once you give your feedback, you are going to want to, after you set your expectations, that you are going to want to follow up. You're just going to want to start to observe and follow up within sometime between 5 to 30 days. Just do a check-in and see how things are going. Because honestly, the power of your leadership is going to absolutely lie in the follow-up. And then after that, you're going to want to continue to monitor. You're just going to want to continue to monitor the situation and make sure that this is not a repeat offense. And if it is, then the 5th step is kind of start all over again, right? It's wash, rinse, and repeat. That you're going to want to make sure that you have the right expectations in place. Maybe they weren't clear, so you want to take a knee, take a moment, take a pause, take a step back, and actually revisit your original conversation to see, okay, was there any opportunity? Were there any gaps? Was there any opportunity for a misunderstanding? And then reapproach and start the process again. And that would be listen more, talk less.
Yeah. So Brenda, because let's talk about the employees, because sometimes this is what happens if we hire the wrong employee. It's not suitable for the job, or maybe it doesn't align with the values of the company. This is when the employee start to become difficult. He's actually uncomfortable in the job, or maybe the role description, it doesn't align with his values, it doesn't align with that. So who's responsible for that, and who's responsible to deal with the situation? Because it won't be unfair if after you brought into the employee, then you're gonna fire him because that person because it's not performing or because it's being difficult. So sometimes the easiest way to deal with our mistakes as entrepreneurs is to just fire the employee and that's it. Because we don't have time to look at, and we don't have time to go through this process that you just described it. However, if you manage I have done it myself in my companies, right? Where the employees have become very difficult, very unproductive, and then you have a conversation with them more than one. You enroll them in the vision and what you're really doing as a company and everything, and they turn out to be spectacular after that. Yeah. So so tell us a little bit more about this, about why employees. I'm a big fan of developing the employees to take the employees. Sometimes more for the values they have, more for that the willing to work with us, with the company, that even the skill set, because the skill set can be learned, right? They always can learn. So this is no the main thing. But if you find, our values for our companies, our integrity, are being happy and being productive, and creates, challenging the status quo and creates something amazing all the time. The employees that align with these values are going to be very comfortable at work, and they are comfortable. They won't become difficult, right? So, any views or any advice that you have for the CEOs at the moment, for the entrepreneurs that they are facing and handling difficult employees? Because let me tell you something: difficult employees can be a huge damage for a business. Yeah, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's not. Sometimes, I mean, it's easier, I think, to train them, to grow them back, and to find common grounds, to actually get rid of them, right? So I think they joined the organization for a reason. So tell us a little bit more. Who's responsible about this? Because what is true is that you know the retention rates in corporate America, they are could be better, right? And it's very expensive when you hire a new employee.
Yeah,
So to
absolutely.
train again, we're talking about millions and millions. If you don't retain the employee and the employee leaves, uh, companies losing millions and millions because you have to hire a new person and train again, and that this is a very expensive exercise, right?
Yes. So, to answer your question, one of the first things that I would strongly recommend doing is actually get in your mind a very clear picture of what an ideal employee actually looks like. So, you know how in marketing we create a marketing avatar, an ideal client avatar. There's no reason why you can't create an ideal employee avatar, right? It's just a framework and a construct. And within that avatar, you want to ask yourself, what are the skills? What are the basic things that you need from an employee? Start with that. Don't even start with the position. Start with, how do I want all of my employees to have level ground, right? And it's going to be an alignment with the company core values. That's going to be one of the first things. And if the company doesn't have core values, well, that's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, right? Right now, like the Society of Human Resource Management is actually looking at a statistic I read actually earlier today, that 2/3 of employees actually leave a business or experience, I should say experience, not leave a business, but they experience what they call incivility. And in my
Wow.
opinion, incivility, just quite frankly, it's a very subjective word, which is not a bad thing, because civility means something different to everyone, because it's all going to be shaped on culture. So I'll give you, for instance, if you have somebody from the United States that is expatriated and now works in a different country that has a vastly different culture than the United States, that there could be a level of directness that could be misinterpreted as, or interpreted as uncivil, right? But in that country, in that culture, that's par for the course, right?
100%.
That's no different than what happens just over here in the United States in any company. So somebody can come
The
from a
corporates are
different.
international, so you have people from everywhere, right? From the
Yeah,
working to the C
absolutely.
levels. Some companies are even global, so you have employees from all over the world, and everybody has to be able to communicate among themselves effectively. And despite that they are part of the same culture of the company, right? They have different cultures and background themselves, and that could be an issue, right?
Yeah. So if you have people that come from a different viewpoint, and one person may have a little bit more of a sensitive heart than somebody else can be very straightforward, that could be a misalignment in one person hearing a remark that they may deem as uncivil, right? Because it seems rude, when in fact it may not necessarily be rude. It could just be very straightforward. So interpretation is everything. And so that's the reason why you actually need to have people that are in alignment with core values. Not everybody is going to see eye to eye. Not everybody is going to get along. But if everybody is working from a set of core values, if they're making decisions around those core values, that's going to take everybody leaps and bounds, because you can't avoid conflict. There's always going to be some form of conflict at some point in time, right? 85%.
Who's responsible for that? Is the HR, right? So
no,
the person who's bringing, yeah, but whoever is bringing the people to the organization, they have to, in the interview process. I think that what happened is that most of the jobs interviews out there, we are so worried about, if the person can do the roles and if he knows how to do the job, and if he knows the technicality of the job, right? And a lot of people put, HR companies put all the effort in to make sure bringing the people have the knowledge about the role, and very little, 80% of that, and then the other 20%, they are just checking briefly if the culture of the individual that they're going to bring to the organization are similar values that the values that employees have, and this is when the clash comes. But I think we need to start in order to improve in the process. And part of the issue would be whoever is letting them in the first place, because once they are in, you do have to deal with it. Yeah, that's part of our culture of our company, right? Doesn't matter how they come inside. Once they are in, we have to deal with it, and we need to make the most of them. And if we find a difficult person in the process, we are responsible for that, because we didn't conduct a very effective selection process, right? Perfect.
Yeah, and the thing is that during the selection process, though, is that you're not going to know 100% about anybody.
I agree with you. I agree with you. 100%.
So, and you kind of hit it on the head when you said, like they're in, then we have to deal with it. But the selection process really should be less about who are we dealing with and more about who are we not willing to deal with. And if you start looking at it from that perspective, you are going to make better selections rather than trying to figure out how are you going to fill the seat. The person is out there. You just got to ask enough questions to enough people to get to that answer. And then when they're in, how are they going to handle conflict? Right. And that should be a question that should be asked during the selection process. Have them tell their story about a time where they disagreed with their manager, or have them tell a story about a time that they didn't necessarily agree with the direction that the company was going in. How do they handle that? Ask them about a time when they had a really nasty conflict with the employee. And the more that they tell their story and the less you speak, that's why I say listen more, talk less, is that they're going to tell you things. They're going to tell you the one thing that they probably don't want you to know because they're nervous, and they're going to wind up giving it up anyway. And that's fine, but you see, that's the key to it right there, is understanding what you're working with. And then are you willing to actually work with that? And I think that's an aspect of hiring that people have gotten away from. And that's something that years ago in one of the companies that I worked for, which is a Fortune 500 company, we would ask that question. We would say, hey, we're up against this. We know this about this person. The question is this something that we can work with? And if the answer is no, we didn't hire the person.
Mm-hmm. And then that's the other thing as well, that when it comes to hiring and to bring in the employees, I remember that once to give you an example. For example, our company, we are very dynamic. We embrace new things. Yeah, there is no such a thing. This is not my job in my company. This is I haven't heard this from my employees for 17 years, and I don't think that I will never hear from them, right? Because when they are bringing to the organization, we have this as a motto, right? That we are very proactive. We do a lot of different things. If something new comes out, we have to do research. and we just go for it and embrace it and learn about it, right? And yes, some employees, they find things fascinating, and they stay with us for years and years, And once we ask them, why are you still working with us? They telling us because we love to work with you guys. Right?
It's always a nice
But
thing
I
to hear.
think, however, if an employee comes to our organization and he wants one specific role, and he only wants to do, personally wants to do this specific role, and don't do any other roles because this is what he was hired for. Probably in other organizations, that type of employee would be extremely valuable, but in ours, it just doesn't fit. We don't work like that. We don't operate like that. We are a high performance company with very few employees. This is our culture. This is who we are. This is how we go about things. And in my opinion, we give a bigger space for the employees to develop themselves and to have more skill set, which in the future gonna make them more employable. So I always make sure that every time that they work for me, even they want to keep working with me, it's fine. But if it's not, I make sure when they leave the organization, they're gonna find something amazing because coming out of our organization, they're well prepared for battle. Yeah, I can guarantee you that. Yeah, they they become really, really clever, really sharp. Very resourceful in anything that comes. Yeah, within the boundaries, of course, right? You cannot have an IT developer that I don't know. Well, our IT developers even do graphic design or whatever what is required. So I cannot even tell you this, but which is something really far from. I don't know. Our IT developers. I mean, we're not gonna put them to do sales course, for example. Also, that you need a salesperson. However, the spectrum that comes with the role is way wider, as most wide as possible. And this is how we operate. So it's all about, and you find a difficult person when you bring someone to an organization that have different expectations and the value don't align with the value of the company. So now sometimes that's the other thing as well. The employees have a different perspective. They're coming from a different company where they have a different job. And hey, that company, that was his job. It was well defined, and he was trained. I'm happy to. This is how we operate, and now he has a new job. Well, what's going on with these people? It happened. Everything's my job now, and sometimes it's part of us as the organization to enroll them in the new possibility and to give them time on the space. Talking about this, the other thing is that regardless how the job interview goes, I think that when we hire employees in our organization, we put them the trial, create the trial to see if actually it can handle it the way we do things, right? Because because again, it's not for everybody. And even if the interview can go amazingly, you were writing something like that, until the person don't go inside the role, you don't see the performance and the behavior and how react under pressure and how react when conflict comes, then we really don't know. So the question that I have for you is the following: How what can we do to diminish, right, the the damage, which is to bring the wrong person to organization, which is actually very painful for company. For a small company, small startup, you bring two wrong people to organization, that's it, the company collapses. That's it, you're gone. There's no chance to survive. So how what people out there, and then how the CEO is gonna know how to hire? He just starting a business. He just have a product that's selling and making a little bit of money. So he doesn't know about hiring. He just needs some job done, and we find the fact, I don't know. If he doesn't have a sharp background, how they gonna learn? So what message do you have for these startup CEOs that want to make the first million? That what they should be looking at, yeah, and also what advice do you have for the Fortune 500 company CEOs? Well, they have another problem. They need to hire so many people in large organizations that if something goes wrong and one or few people they are not well selected, have a huge impact in terms of finance to the company, in terms of profitability.
Yeah, so it's a complex answer, but to simplify it, the first thing that they do, I mean, if you have a small business leader out there that has not spent any time, has never learned how to interview anybody appropriately, I mean, the best thing that you can do is reach out, connect, and let's get you some training on how to actually interview and what does that look like, and why you want to ask more of a behavior-based, open-ended question rather than a closed question of which somebody's going to hide behind their silence. That's the key right there. If you don't ask them the right question, they're going to hide the stuff they don't want you to know behind silence. That's just like, dating and hiring are very much the same thing these days. And people hide behind technology. If they don't want to be part of your world, they don't, their technology will shut you out from that, right? And then the other piece is that when you're talking about the level of, Fortune 500, you want to figure out how to leverage employee assets daily. That's the key right there, because large corporations, sometimes we can get too large. That is a challenge. I worked for a couple of Fortune 500s where we just got too big, and now we were over processing and undervaluing the capabilities of what our employees were doing. And then when we came up against hard times in the world, 2008, 2012, 13 again, and we had to make staffing shifts. If you don't know what you have in the pot, how can you possibly make the right decisions that
Absolutely.
will take your company to the next level and into its next life cycle, right? So that's why it's critical to really do a thorough assessment to understand how you can leverage employee assets daily.
Yeah. And then, but let's talk about the positive side of it, because when we do have the right people into the organization, wow, company move forward and it flies, the numbers, and again, sometimes, when it's time to fire people, right? Some approaches a company do, they just check the last month numbers, and whoever have low numbers, that's it. You're gone, which is pretty unfair, because you don't know if the person have a problem, you don't know if the parents have a house, you don't know if you have a health issue. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, like you said, 2008, so COVID, whatever, companies face crisis and they have to reshape, otherwise they are gone. And they need to get rid of some people, because otherwise it's not going to be no people. They're all going to be. Right. They're all gonna, yeah. Some to none, yeah. So then, what is how is the most effective and fair, way to assess what are the least, what are the employees that actually they are less attractive for the company to stay, trying to be fair, right? Because I don't think that is fair that, they check just last month performance, and whoever has low performance this month is the person that has to leave. Yeah, I don't think it's fair. I definitely won't do that in my company, but different companies, different rules. So what would be your rule, Brenda, if you need to get rid of people of the organization because of credit crunch, or any COVID or whatever happened out of your control, and there is a mission to save the company? What would be your perfect formula to conduct this process the more fair and effective for people as well as for the company?
So I've had the privilege of actually being part of very high performing teams, and there's nothing like it. I mean, really, you're on cloud nine, right? It feels good. It's hard work. There's no doubt about it, but when you and your team actually see the progress that you're making, and you're making new strides, and you're doing things that you never did before, like you hit those benchmarks that you didn't think was possible, you weren't sure if we were going to do it, and have the support mechanism behind you from levels of leadership all over the place. In order to experience that, it actually requires more. So if you want more, you have to become more, which means that your employees have to be more than what they were yesterday. Your business, you have to look at your organization. So if you want more out of your leadership, then your leadership has to be more. If you want, more wins for your companies, well, then you're going to have to figure out how to win more, right? It's always going to be a requirement to do that. And it's no easy process, and it's no clear-cut process, right? Do you need to be 10% better at what you're doing in order to hit the mark? Do you need to be 20%? You just, honestly, you have to take a step back, and you have to really take a look at your organization and understand what it is that you want to do. Is it something that's reasonable? Because we can shoot for the moon and miss it by miles because the distance is just too great, right? So we have to ask ourselves, is it attainable? Is it something that's reasonable? And, then once you figure all of that out, you figure out, your time, how much time you want to do this within, then you have to really communicate with your team. And then you have to step back and you have to listen to what your team has to say, because they're the ones that are going to be in the trenches. You're leading the battle, right? So they're going to be the ones that are in the trenches. They know where the weaknesses are at their level within the organization. And if those gaps are wide open and there's nothing in place to either remove them or close them up, they're not going to be as efficient, and they're not going to be able to produce as much or as more as you want them to be, right? It's going to make it even harder for them to reach that level. So if you know that your team is going to have to work hard to get to the next level, what are you doing to eliminate those obstacles to ensure that they can actually make that happen? That's the kind of support mechanism that the team is looking for, right? It's not necessarily more money to do things. It is, how do we get all of these obstacles out of the way? Because a problem really truly isn't a problem. A problem is only something that somebody else can't solve for themselves. And that's your job. Your job is to help them figure out how to solve those problems. And if they can't solve it for themselves, you're going to have to do it for them. And those are problems that are well without their reach. They're well above their pay grade, so to speak. They're the ones that you may have problems interdepartmentally, right? Two departments don't necessarily see eye to eye. That's not something that your team can fix. You have to lead the way through something like that. And the other leader of that department has to lead it with you equally.
That's fantastic. So Brenda, if somebody's in love with our conversation and they want to improve, the way that the company is performing and bring you in, for you to make the things run more smoothly and to increase the productivity, right? By having conversations with, we're not gonna call it difficult. We're gonna call it that those employees they are not aligned yet with the values of the company, and if we bring in just few conversations. I've done it myself, so I'm talking from my own experience. Just few conversations with an employee can change the whole performance from day and night. Yeah,
absolutely.
Not talking about the book. I'm talking about things that I've done that's real that I've done myself. So, how people can find you, how this process works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I actually have a gift for your audience.
Very good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And the easiest way to find me, I have a very complicated last name, so you can go to my website at heybrenda.com. So I have, every time somebody calls me with a problem, I call it my Hey Brenda hotline. So you can go to heybrenda.com.
I love it.
And you're going to get access to something that I call impact scripts. And these impact scripts are, if you're dealing with somebody that is a little bit challenging, or if you have a difficult situation that you're dealing with, there are 3 scripts that you are going to get that are going to help you navigate and cut through that drama and allow you to get to the heart of the matter. And you're not going to have to deal with personality as much, because these questions actually help you move the ego out of the way. So that is heybrenda.com. And you'll go ahead and put in your name, you'll put in your email address, and then I ask, because I'm always curious about this, before you get to the course, what's the one thing that you heard today that just totally wowed you? What's the one thing that you fell in love with that you're like, I'm going to go do that right now? I'd love to hear that stuff. And then once you're in, then you'll be able to go ahead and take the Impact Scripts course, and it's a good time. I absolutely love it. This is the same things that I've been saying literally when I learned how to do this is going on 15, almost 20 years now.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Brenda. That have been very valuable. And for all of you following this broadcast, Entrepreneurs and Leaders, see you in our next episode. How amazing entrepreneurs like Brenda are doing business to make the world a better place. Bye for now.
Follow us for more on charismatic speaking, leadership, exponential business growth, branding, marketing, strategies designed to help you monetize your knowledge, find true happiness, and manifest your goals and dreams.